Right. So, yes, illocutionary. We're talking about illocutionary aids, right? This utterance, it may be taken as a request, a request to Tariq for bringing a new marker from the reception, right? With a speech act, there are three type of acts associated. Sorry, within utterance, there are three acts associated. The first one, locutionary. The second one, illocutionary, which we talked about, right? Coming to the last one, for locutionary act, it's actually listener centered, right? It's listener centered, not speaker centered, right? It is, you may say, the effect of what is said on the hearer. For example, like you may say the listener may get convinced, right? The listener may get inspired, right? He or she may he may be persuaded by the utterance uttered by the speaker, right? Let's suppose this example, Tariq, the marker is not working. So what will Tariq do? Tariq will actually go and will bring another marker, or at least Tariq will give me a pragmatic response, right? Pragmatic response, contextual response means or intended response. You will say, okay, sir, let me bring another one, please, right? So all these other utterances, all examples like which we discussed, for example, let's suppose if I say, if Tariq says, sir, it's raining outside, so what will I do? Okay, fine, take my umbrella, right? You may take it simply. I may say, you may take it, right? उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा. Tariq didn't say, please give me your umbrella. Rather, he performed, he uttered in, a kind of, you may say, constitutive sentence, right? He just said, sir, it's raining outside, but what would I say? I would simply say, okay, you may take it, right? Because I know that the intended meaning in this particular context, the pragmatic meaning in this particular context is a request for taking the umbrella. So I'll give a pragmatic response, I'll give the intended response, I'll give the contextual response, right? So like all utterances we utter on daily basis, there are these three acts associated, right? And all utterances do have effects on the hearer. The hearer may get persuaded, may get inspired, may get convinced. Okay, if someone enters the room, again that example, and I say it's very cold outside, so what will the person do? The person will, he or she will go and will close the door. So because the person gets convinced, right? So this is what we call locutionary act. Coming back to the conclusion of this entire discussion, right? According to John Aston, there are three acts associated with an utterance. The first one is locutionary act, which is the action of the production of meaningful utterances, or the you may say the literal meanings of utterances, the literal meanings of utterances. Then we have got a locutionary act. Locutionary act is actually the social force or the pragmatic force associated with an utterance, or it is the intended meaning of an utterance. It is the communicative intention of the speaker. Then we have got locutionary act, so that is actually the effect of an utterance on the hearer, right? So these are whatever utterance we utter, we perform these three speech acts together, right? Like all these three speeches are performed at the same time. They are associated with each and every single utterance we utter. Coming to direct and indirect speech acts, which were actually proposed by John Searle in 1969, right? Direct speech acts, indirect speech acts, you may simply say that you see we have got two types of meanings, which we have already talked about during the definitional considerations of pragmatics. One is the literal meaning of an utterance, another is the intended meaning of an utterance, right? So direct speech act means when the literal meaning of an utterance is identical with its intended meaning. Like when the intended and the literal meaning of an utterance is the same. That is what we call direct speech act, right? And indirect speech act means that when the intended meaning of an utterance is different from its literal meaning, right? You may simply say that here we have got these, performative sentences. Here we have got performative sentences, explicit or implicit performative sentences, and here we have got the constitutive sentences, right? How? Look at this example. Close the window, please. Close the window, please. Its literal meaning is close the door, and its intended meaning is also close the door. Its intended meaning, pragmatic meaning, contextual meaning is actually a request to close the door, right? Or it may be a command even in order to close the door, right? But both the meanings are the same. Close the door and the intended meaning, the communicative intention, that is the same, right? That is identical to the literal meaning. दरवाजा बंद कर ले का सिर्फ एक ही मतलब है कि दरवाजा बंद कर ले. It doesn't have any other meaning at all. Okay. On the other hand, if we look at the indirect speech act, so when the intended meaning is different from what we actually say, when the intended meaning is different from the literal meaning of an utterance. How? Let's suppose if someone says it's very cold outside. So the literal meaning is it's very cold outside. Description of the weather, description of the state outside, right? That is the literal meaning, right? That is what a person actually says. But what the person actually means, the person actually means the intended meaning of the speaker. The person actually intends to say, close the door, right? That is actually an indirect request to close the door. So direct speech act is it takes place when we mean what we actually say, and indirect speech act takes place when the intended meaning of an utterance is different from its intended from its literal meaning, right? Or simply when our communicative intention is different from what we actually say. So in that situation is the speech act is called indirect speech act, right? Now if we look at all the performative sentences, explicit performatives, for example, I request you to close the door, I request you to give me your umbrella, I apologize for not joining the party, right? I swear by God, I bet you 2,000 rupees. You see, I bet, I apologize, I swear by God, I assure you, I announce him to be the chair of the class. You see, announce, promise, apologize, bet, swear, or I command you, I order you, I advise you to do this, I suggest you to do this and do that, right? So performative, explicit performative sentences and implicit performative sentences as well. Implicit, for example, close the door, please, right? So I didn't say I request you to close the door, please. Rather, I just said close the door, please, right? So again, that is a request, but implicit performative sentence, because the performative verb I request, it is not explicitly present here. Okay, so both explicit and implicit performative utterances, sentences, they come under the ambit of direct speech acts, right? While the constitutive sentences, most of the times, they come under the ambit of this indirect speech act. Same is the case with all the ironies, right? For example, I might have provided this example to you earlier as well while discussing pragmatics, right? Or let's talk about some other general examples. Let's suppose if Safir tells इलियास साहब कि इलियास साहब आप तो इन दिनों मुझे एक मैसेज नहीं कर रहे, और इलियास साहब बताए जवाब में कि हाँ मेरा फोन तो आपके मैसेजेस से भरा पड़ा है, राइट? तो इलियास साहब ने तो ये कहा कि मेरा फोन आपके मैसेजेस से भरा पड़ा है. That was a constitutive sentence, but the intended meaning is the communicative action is actually a taunt. right? वो टॉन्ट करना चाहते थे हम पर कि आप भी तो, या a kind of complain you may say कि आप भी तो मुझे इन दिनों मैसेज करने की जहमत नहीं करते, right? So if you look at all the ironies, sarcastic remarks, they are basically they come under the ambit of indirect speech act. Did you get this so far?